Hi all, Andy here and welcome back to the channel where today I'm covering the top 5 things I think you should be considering if you're looking to pick up a Mark 1 Audi TT in the year 2024. I'm here today with my Mark 1 Project TT, which when I purchased just a couple of months ago, I knew exactly what I was getting into due to the condition of the car. However, not everything is visible to the naked eye and obvious in adverts online. So I'm hoping the 5 tips I'm giving out here will help you make the right decision if you're looking to purchase an Audi TT in 2024. So rather than spend the time in the garage talking about it, let's get in one of the 2 working Mark 1s I've got outside and we can take them for a drive and talk about these 5 top tips. So let's go. So let's start off in the coupe. Let's hope it starts, which it does. So as we roll off the drive, let's talk about point number 1. And point number 1 is the MOT history of the vehicle. You can quite easily check the MOT status of any vehicle by going on the website that I'm going to show just down here below, and that will tell you the current state of the MOT, but also that website will give you the MOT history of the vehicle and it will show you any advisories that are present and have been present on the vehicle throughout its life. So I highly recommend that as point 1 for checking out any purchase, is look at the MOT history. The last thing you want to be doing with any potential purchase is picking up a car that looks good on the outside but is hiding lots of potential problems underneath. Now my second recommendation for any car purchase is to get the car HPI checked. Now there's lots of websites that do this service for you online now for as little as £10, and that can give you the full history of your car. Now the HPI checks will cover things such as outstanding finance, because the last thing you want to be doing is taking on a car that's actually owned by a finance company, because legally the car would belong to them and they could take the car off you and you would have no comeback on the money. Judging by the age of our cars and the price of them, finance is probably unlikely nowadays. However, it will also advise if the car has ever been stolen. Again, that's quite an interesting factor, because if a car's been stolen, anything could have happened to it, and you need to be aware of anything that's happened to your car that you're buying.
Not only this, but you need to ensure the car has not been reported stolen and is still showing a stolen status. Always make sure the seller can produce the V5 document as evidence, or the new keeper slip, or the person you are buying from may not be the owner.
As well as the finance and the theft factor, and possibly the most important one of all, it will tell you if the car has ever been written off. Now, one of the drawbacks with buying cars from Facebook Marketplace is it's very much a bought as seen environment. There's not an awful lot of governance behind that. So information such as if it's been stolen, or if it's got finance, or if it's been written off doesn't have to be stated on the adverts. So you could buy a car from Facebook Marketplace that could have been involved in an accident, written off, and you'd have very little comeback on that. Now the Project TT that we saw in my garage, that was bought from Facebook Marketplace, and it had no mention on the advert the car had been written off. Now that isn't a structural one, it's not a Cat S, it is actually a Cat N, which means it suffered non-structural damage, but even still it would be worth less money at resale. And of course, a car that has suffered structural damage, a Cat S, could potentially be dangerous. But if you undertake a HPI check, that will do that check for you. So for as little as £10 with a HPI check, you can ensure that the car you're purchasing has not been written off, have any outstanding finance, or has ever been stolen. Now number 3 is service history. Make sure the car you're purchasing has got plenty of service history, because if it hasn't got service history, there's no guarantee that that car has been well looked after. If you've got evidence of a good service history, you can be assured that previous owners have looked after the car and had it maintained at the service interval that has been recommended. It is quite common for most of these old cars today to have been maintained at home by home mechanics because they are 20 years old, or there could be gaps in the service history because it's been lost. But that is a bit of a risk to you if you're going to buy a car like that. So it's something to consider and something you can use for a bargaining perspective when you're trying to negotiate on price. Now, point 4 we'll talk about between two cars because one of them affects this particular car and one of them affects the other car that I'm going to take out shortly. Now, this particular car has timing chains because it's a 3.2 V6. So something you must make sure that you take along to any potential viewing is one of these, and that is an OBD2 code reader to make sure your car is suffering from no known engine management problems. Now, on this particular car, one of its problems that it has or can have is it can have problems with its timing chains. And this is well known in the 3.2, and I cover a video on how to check the timing chains on a 3.2, and I will leave the link to that above, and I highly recommend you check that out if you're going to look at a V6 engine. Now, with this dongle, you can plug it in and you can get all of the codes and information out of the car. You need a small application on your phone normally, or some of the devices such as the C-Reader Elite has a screen built into it, but this one will plug into your OBD2 socket on the car and link to your phone, and the information you get out of that can be very beneficial. So reading timing chains is very useful, but you also want to use that on the Roadster or the 1.8T engine as well, because it will give you very similar information towards the state of that car also. However, what I am going to talk about on the Roadster for point 4 is checking the roof and all the electrics work. So let's swap cars and take a look at that now. Okay, so here we are in the Roadster, and for point 4 of a Roadster, as well as an OBD2 check, I would also make sure all of the electrics work in the car, because the roof has a tendency to leak just behind here, or can do. Water can get in, and there's a module just behind my head called the CCM, and that is the comfort control module, and that controls most of the electrics in the car, including the operation of the roof. So one thing I recommend specifically for the Roadster is that the roof works and all of the electrics work, and that's quite easy to do. Obviously, start the engine, disengage the roof like so. The windows have dropped, that's a good sign. Then pull the button to put the roof down all the way, and the windows come back up. So I would say that the roof operation is working well. Now, one of the many common failures to the CCM module is that roof stops working, the windows stop dropping, you get various lights on the dashboard that don't work anymore, and it has really odd behaviour from the electrics. So I would say this particular car is in good condition. So we'll put the seat belt on and we'll go for a little spin. Now, going for a little spin, as I call it, brings me on to point 5, and that is make sure you test drive any car that you're looking to buy. Sounds pretty obvious, I know, but a lot of people will buy a car blind, and that is a massive risk. So I highly recommend you take any car for a drive. When you go for that drive, make sure that you give it a good work over. Make sure the gearbox changes are all nice and smooth if it's a manual. Make sure all the electrics work. So we've talked about the windows, the hood, everything, the lights. Make sure the lights, the electrics work. Make sure when you put your foot down on a 1.8T, you can hear that boost come in and you feel that increase in power. And more importantly, when you're on a nice piece of straight road, make sure those brakes stop, because you need to stop. Make sure the suspension works. Make sure you really put it into the corners. Lean into the car, make sure everything goes the right direction. On the test drive, make sure you drive it long enough to get it up to temperature also. So the car has just hit 90 degrees after driving for about 4 miles. And at that point, make sure it doesn't start overheating or causing problems. Look for smoke, look for steam, look for anything coming out of the engine, from under the bonnet or from the back of the car. And most importantly, if you've got a 225 or a 180 that's got Quattro installed, give it a good acceleration from standing start and make sure those wheels do not spin. And when you do that, make sure you get no flashing yellow lights indicating a problem with your Haldex on the dashboard. That way you can ensure your four-wheel drive is working as it should. So if your car is suffering from no strange noises on a test drive, everything works as it should, the car is clean from a HPI check perspective, it's got a good MOT history with no outstanding advisories, the service history is all good on the car, then I think that goes a long way to making sure the Audi TT that you're buying is a good car and one worth investing in. Make sure you give it a good boot though. Listen to that turbo come in. Woohoo! So that's my 5 top tips if you're looking to purchase a Mk1 Audi TT in the year 2024. And I hope you found the video useful. And I hope it goes some way towards helping you make the right decision on a purchase. If you've enjoyed today's video, then please do give it a thumbs up. And also think about subscribing to my channel if you've not already done so, where you'll find a whole host of content on the Audi TT Mk1. As always, thanks for watching. See you soon. Take care. Car check websites. Oh dear.